Hi, my friend. Welcome to the Bounce Back Black Woman podcast. I'm Dell, and I've overcome some of the most devastating heartbreaks I could ever have imagined. Do you find yourself stuck in sadness after a broken heart, asking God, why me? Well, I'm here to help women just like you heal and build the resilience to overcome life's greatest hurts. If you long for joy and confidence again, this podcast is for you. So grab your headphones and those heartbreaks. Let's talk. Hey, my friend. Welcome back to Bounce Back Black Woman. For those of you who are new here, welcome. I'm your host, Coach Dell, and today we're getting into a conversation that many of us tend to avoid. It's the conversation about letting go when closure never comes. I know that many of us struggle with this, which is why I chose to do this episode. I struggle with this. I have in the past, and I continually fight to not struggle with it now, and I know I will always struggle with it. So I know too many people who do to not have made this episode. Whether it's a relationship, a friendship, or even a career heartbreak. And in a different way, it could be grief or loss. But these are moments when you're left with nothing but questions, silence, and very often pain. It is so painful to desperately want closure, answers, conversation, and not get them. But here's the truth I want to share with you. The reason that I wanted to do this episode. God doesn't need closure in order to bring healing. Let me say that again. God doesn't need closure to bring healing. Let's get grounded first in this reminder that comes from the book of Psalms. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. He rescues those whose spirits are crushed. And that one comes specifically from Psalm 34:18. And you guessed it, my favorite version of the Bible, the New Living Translation. If you don't have that translation of the Bible, let me encourage you to get it. Because while some of the earlier translations are powerful and very historic and very meaningful, this particular translation has a way of breaking down scripture in a modern tone that helps us see our lives in the pages, in the words, and connect it to what we're going through in this modern day. So if you don't have a New Living Translation, let me encourage you to try one. If you need a good recommendation, you can certainly check the show notes and I'll leave one there. But what I want that scripture to convey to you in this message is that even in the silence, even in the unanswered, you are not alone. You're not alone. God is always there. There's something about being left without answers that feels like almost a second layer of pain. It's not just the loss, the breakup, the death, the end of the friendship, the firing from the job. It's the confusion that happens in our minds and our thoughts and our hearts. It's the wondering. Why did they disappear? What did I do wrong? How could I have made a different choice that kept this from happening? Why didn't they fight for me? Why didn't they tell me the truth? Why didn't they at least acknowledge my message? But I want to tell you something that I had to learn the hard way. Closure is not a prerequisite for healing. You don't need the voicemail. You don't need the emoji on that text that you sent. You don't need the reply over email. Your question mark might just have to act like a period. Let me tell you a personal story. And this one is hard because I've experienced this situation more times than I can count in my life. But the one that comes to mind is a relationship that I was in. And it was a good relationship until it started to show signs that we were maybe not the right fit for one another. I talked a little bit about love languages. We'll talk a bit in this podcast about communication styles and just the way that we move through life. But once it was obvious that we were not necessarily wired the same, I decided to end that relationship. And for me, that was a new experience because I wasn't used to being the one to end a relationship. And after I did that and stepped away for some time, I began to wonder, maybe I did that prematurely. Maybe I didn't work hard enough or try hard enough to see if we could figure it out, because there were good parts of that relationship. Absolutely. And so I reached out again and said, hey, can we talk? And they said yes. And I heard nothing. And I reached out again and said, I thought maybe we would talk. When are you free? And I heard nothing. And so I was very confused. And I was searching for some kind of closure. Just say you don't want to talk. Don't disappear. And I'll let you in on a little secret. I have trauma. Many of us have trauma. And that's another story for another episode. But I have trauma with people disappearing because they've died. And so my brain automatically goes to what happened to them. Are they okay? Because it can't really fathom that they would just leave me with no closure. I am still working on healing that and overcoming that. But those that know me know that that's a constant struggle for me. And so in this situation, I had to tell myself to leave the trauma behind and just accept that I might never get closure from that person. And here's what I finally realized. Some stories don't come with closure. Some people don't offer explanations. And some heartbreaks, well, they just end. And somehow we have to figure out how to let go anyway. The longer that we hold on, the longer that we make up stories in our mind, the longer that we look on social media to see if they're posting or they're responding or if they're even active. And the longer that we wait, hoping for them to make it right, is the longer that we stay tethered to the pain of it all. The longer that we stay tethered to the questions and the insecurity and the stuckness that comes. But here's what I want you to know, my friend. Forgiveness is for your freedom, not their comfort. So you might have to just forgive them for their ghosting, or forgive them for not answering. Forgive them for abandoning. Letting go doesn't mean that it didn't hurt. It doesn't invalidate your pain. What it means is that you've decided not to let that wound define you anymore. And this, my friend, is where the healing begins. So I want to leave you with another scripture. It comes from Romans 12:18. And here's what it says. Do all that you can to live in peace with everyone. Sometimes all you can do is walk away in peace. That's what that scripture means. That's something you can do. You can walk away in peace. You can't make them answer. You can't make them give you closure. But you can choose to follow what God says and do all that you can to live in peace with everyone. So that's it for this episode. I want to encourage you, my friend, to remember that peace is not dependent on their apology. God is the healer, not them. And your bounce back doesn't need their permission. You don't have to wait for closure to move forward. You just have to decide that you're worth healing anyway, even without it. So if today's episode resonated with you, I'd like you to do a couple of things. I want you to head over to bouncebackblackwoman.com. It's the headquarters for everything related to our bouncing back together. You'll find links for the Bounce Back Companion Journal, a specific place tailored to your journaling about what you're learning and growing within yourself related to these episodes. You'll find a link to join our private community off of social media in an app called Geneva, where we've got different rooms where we can laugh, support one another, dive deeper into the scripture, and just talk about life. And also, you can sign up for my weekly newsletter that is coming out for the first time later this week. I'm super excited. There'll be recaps of the episodes, sneak peeks into what's coming, and some behind the scenes of my real life behind the mic. So definitely go over to Bounce Back Black Woman and find those resources and take advantage of them. Because guess what? It is not just me. It's not just you. It's us together, my friend. And we're bouncing back. Well, that's it for today, my friend. I really hope this episode inspired, encouraged, or just plain comforted you. If so, please share it with a friend who might be struggling in her own healing journey. And if you take a moment to leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts, you'll help other women find encouragement through their heartbreak. Remember that God is holding your hand along this journey. And guess what? I'm holding the other. Life is short, so bounce back, Black woman.